There are too many people in this world that don't have conviction, or if they do have conviction, it's absolute delusion. You're not going to get rich. You're going to fail. Everybody has this way of being jealous and thinking that you're not going to be the one to go ahead and make it happen. And yet, for some odd reason, this sentiment, time and time again, seems to be proven wrong. Humanity has this way of just destroying things because they don't think it's worth their time. But the thing is, everyone thought about that with crypto gaming, and yet crypto gaming has gone ahead and produced some of the craziest returns this market has ever gone ahead and seen. Back last year, around this time, October, we had huge gains in crypto gaming. Most altcoins going up from 10x all the way to 100x in the span of 3 to 4 months. We're having some pretty similar stuff happening right now in the crypto gaming space. So let's go ahead and chat about it. Now, I want to start this off by just ripping the band-aid off. How and why am I getting into so many different crypto gaming projects? Well, back in the day, this was around January. This is like, how everybody has tulips? That was a big thing back in the day. Tulips were going crazy, and then people were selling snake oil and all that kind of stuff. Well, in crypto gaming, we like to sell visions. And out of the 50 different projects I invested into, let's just say a majority of them are not profitable. And yet, the small minority that ended up being profitable ended up making up for all of the other different projects. And what I'm talking about is kind of the thesis behind angel investments, getting into projects very early on before they launch. There's a lot of people out there that talk about the just crazy amount of projects that have launched in the crypto space since the beginning of this year. Right now we have 2.4 million different cryptos in our space. I guarantee that number is probably even higher than it's being advertised on CoinMarketCap. There are a lot of different crypto projects in crypto right now. In crypto gaming specifically, we'd had probably 50 to 100 different projects launch over the course of the past year alone. So what makes these special, and how can I actually make money off this? Well, there is something you need to understand. There's a lot of people out there that will go and do these crazy technicals on, if the FDV is this and the amount of supply is blah, 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 then, you could approximately get 2x gains before investor unlocks happen and all these shenanigans. It does not matter. The only thing that matters, realistically, is that these crypto gaming projects are going to have speculators on them. And for me, when I'm thinking about a project to invest into, I'm thinking about, well, for one, obviously the backers that are behind it, where it's being listed, where's all this liquidity going to be coming from? And when it comes to crypto gaming, when I think about where I'm going to be placing all of my capital in the crypto markets, I've got to think the place that everybody wants to place their capital are probably the top coins. It just makes a lot of sense that the top coins would continue to be winners. And yet, we've seen this from a lot of crypto gaming projects. Once their supply gets to a certain amount, let's say for the sandbox, you've got a good amount of the supply out there, it becomes harder to market their game because they have less money to be playing around with than they did back in the day when only a very small amount of their supply was actually out there. How do we use this to our advantage? Well, we want to look for projects that are ecosystems that have a lot of their supply out there, but are having new tokens launched within their ecosystems that are giving them more money to do more things. What am I talking about? Well, a good example of this is Avalanche. Avalanche raised a metric ton of money. So clearly, they're doing pretty well for themselves. They've got billions of dollars still to unlock. This is probably not the best example in the world. But if we look at the ecosystem for AVAX, we've got, Off the Grid, MapleStory Universe. We've got, our friends over at Bloodloop, which I invested into and has performed pretty well relative to what round we ended up actually getting into. And by the way, before anybody goes, oh, but, these rounds are only available to KOLs. This couldn't be further from the truth. These rounds were available on 𝐶DeFi. And my allocation is on 𝐶DeFi. You know what I mean? It's not a crazy allocation, but still nonetheless, it was a profitable, investment to go ahead and get into. Bloodloop is very tapped into the actual Avalanche space. Avalanche was very hot as a narrative. And so that's why, things like Bloodloop ended up doing very well. And so Avalanche goes ahead, gets money from Bloodloop, presumably, to continue to grow their ecosystem. They get tons of transactions out there. And then Bloodloop's getting money from AVAX at the same time. It's just a ton of weird stuff going on with the foundations. But it doesn't matter. You don't need to care about that. You need to care about the fact that Bloodloop is going to help Avalanche become this big old behemoth. That's all you need to care about. And so we want to buy stuff like Avalanche that actually have an entire ecosystem surrounding it. Bloodloop is awesome. I love Bloodloop. But I've got to say, if I had to choose over Bloodloop or AVAX, I don't think anybody's going to tell me twice. AVAX makes a lot more sense. I own both of them, but AVAX just makes more sense because it's an entire ecosystem rather than just a single gaming project. We actually see some other examples that are pretty good. Gala these days, not as much of a gaming project. We've got Ronin, very clearly has the most users in crypto gaming. We've got IMX, which IMX has the most games. So most users Ronin, most games IMX. And then we have other ones like community projects. They're absolutely slaying it right now. Tons of partnerships. We've got, Superverse over here that I know Alex Becker is an absolute fan of. We got Elio Trades, right? The big old duo. And, then we just keep going down the list. And then we just see a bunch of random projects that we probably shouldn't be touching too much unless they have a specific advantage. They are the top in their industry. For example, I think for me, I think the top metaverse / life simulation thing is Wilder World right now. $60 million market cap. I personally have accumulated around these levels that you're looking at right now. So very recently have been accumulating my Wilder World bags. And that's because, this is a top metaverse. I think that when people come back and look at what the top niches back in the day for crypto gaming were, they're going to look at metaverses. Sensibly so, because metaverses were absolutely enormous, brought hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars worth of market cap to the crypto gaming space. We've got to, shout out stuff like the Sandbox. I personally wouldn't play as the Sandbox, but I've got to say, if you could bring $6 billion into a single coin that used to be worth 700 mil, 600 mil, that's 10x gains in what is this, a single month? That's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for those huge gains in a very short period of time. So what signals are flashing right now that for me make a lot of sense and why I think the crypto gaming markets are going to blow up? Well, for one, I am a person that I kind of invest over time. I'm not here to be some kind of genius that I know that this specific timing is going to be absolutely enormous. Historically, though, it has been a big deal. We're getting to September, October. September, usually we have a little bit of flip-floppiness. We don't know. October historically has been very positive for crypto. So once we get to, October, November, December, usually, if we're supposed to be a super cycle, it's going to be a good thing. And so if we have a Bitcoin run up, which we've begun to see a little bit, 63K, I haven't seen a crazy amount of liquidations on Bitcoin, which is answering for me the fact that I think there's been so much capitulation over the past couple months. I think it's called time capitulation, where, it's been so long, people have been waiting for this pump and it just hasn't come. We just keep going flip-flopping, that people now think that 63K is like this amazing thing when, half a year ago, we were actually much higher than that. We were at 73K. People are getting bored. They're getting bored of the markets, which totally makes sense. I get it. We've had altcoins bleed, and I'll tell you why they're bleeding. It's not because, they're the worst investments in the world. It's because, we look at, for example, Saga. I think Saga is a great project, but guess what? They have, 100 million tokens out there out of a billion tokens. That's maybe 10% of the supply that's out there. They've got 90% of the supply unlocking over time. That creates a lot of sell pressure. And eventually, it doesn't become as big of a deal. But when these projects are launching, and they usually launch during bull periods, if we get a lot of this boringness, and you've got 5-10% of your supply going out there, if you only have 10% out there, and you go to 20%, that is 100% of your supply increasing. Your supply is doubling. It is an insane amount of tokens that are coming into the ecosystem. And most of these people are up a good amount because they probably invested into rounds or something, and they're dumping. And there's nothing wrong with dumping, but it does create a lot of sell pressure. So we're seeing a lot of these projects in crypto gaming, they got to fund the game. They're correcting. And so for you, the retail investor, it gives you an enormous opportunity if you can time it correctly. If you can time it correctly, if you do nothing for the next 6 months, your tokens are probably going to be down another 50 to 70% at least. But if these projects do get traction again, all those people that dumped at those levels back there are going to be absolutely just FOMOing back in for the most part. They're just going to be soiling their pants and just begging to go ahead and be on here. And so the play here is to wait for Bitcoin to have a breakout and then altcoins to have an altcoin season. We are very close, I think, to an altcoin season. I saw this last year. It's the exact same thing happening again. And so I think we're going to have an altcoin season. IMX, look at this, is up 27%. Floki's up 30%. You know, 𝐉𝐨𝐽𝐧, I don't know if this is crypto gaming really, but, you know, 14%, Beam's up and 20%. Everybody's up today. Everybody's up this week. We're still down a lot from where we were before, but you look at it from a year ago, wow, IMX is actually doing pretty good. It's up 150%. Sure, it's not back up to, you know, $3.60, but it's doing pretty well. If we see altcoins range at these levels for a little bit and begin to break out, I think altcoin season is here. Is that time to accumulate these ecosystem plays that are going to just outperform the markets and do excellent. Why do I think crypto gaming is going to do well? There's a lot of people that argue, you know, crypto gaming makes absolutely no sense, blah, blah, blah. We see people are really addicted to video games. They're really addicted to casinos. They're really addicted to, you know, their cell phones, etc. The most profitable endeavors are the ones that just get you addicted to things, right? And I'm addicted to video games. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty damn good at video games. I've spent a lot of time playing games. The crypto games a couple years ago were trash. They got a lot of value because people were making money. These days, these games are actually pretty good. They stand on their own 2 feet. They're not incredible, but they're starting to get to the point where a little bit indistinguishable to the more like okay games in the Web2 space. In a couple years from now, I'm sure they'll be on par, 100% on par. But for now, you know, there's over 40 games launching on Steam every single day. Crypto gaming just doesn't have enough games out there. And for the person looking for good gameplay, that's a bad thing, terrible thing. You want as many games launching as possible because eventually you'll get something that sticks. Most games suck. Some games will end up being good, which is another reason you should be invested into ecosystems. But there's like this like narrative that people think that all of a sudden there's too many gaming coins, there's too many altcoins. If on Steam, over 40 different games are being launched every single day, what makes you think that there are too many crypto games? Like, really, how many games can you actually play right now? You can play a good amount of them, I'm sure, but they're what, on like alpha build? Most of them play terribly because they're still just so early in development. They've got at least another year in development before most of these crypto games are even remotely finished. And so 40 fully launched games versus what we have in crypto gaming right now, people really think we're oversaturated. I don't think there are enough crypto gaming projects. I think until I'm starting to say, you know, I'm invested into 100, 200 of these different projects, I don't think we're even close to oversaturated. We're going to see something very similar to what happened before, where all of a sudden there was a bunch of volume, a bunch of people hyping it up, and just a ton of stuff coming into the crypto gaming space. New projects coming in left and right, and then maybe we can think about that. I'm thinking maybe it's not October, maybe it's not September. I'd be more inclined to think that our election cycle is extremely important when it comes to altcoin season, because if Bitcoin ends up getting a favorable turnout, you know, when it comes to these elections, then we'll have a Bitcoin rise, which will lead to an altcoin rise, which will lead to a ton of new people looking into crypto. And when they think of a normie-friendly narrative, they're going to want to play video games. They're going to get into crypto gaming. Crypto gaming is going to soar. And that's pretty much what's going to happen. It's what's going to happen. So you're looking for those huge gains. Well, those huge gains are sitting in front of your face. Just can you wait long enough to actually realize them? Are you going to take profits? Because I swear, if I see another comment that someone's up 300% and they decided to take no profit and all of a sudden they're back to break even and, you know, they're crying about when the next pump is going to come, I don't want to hear it anymore. I took tons of profits back there. I'm going to take tons of profits again over here when these end up pumping a bunch again. You need to make sure you take profits because in crypto, all this is magic internet money until you actually realize it in your bank account. So think of your investments like that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. That's this video. Until the next time, stay classy, and that's all.